Hello and welcome. In this short video, I'm going to be talking about some basics around workflows in SharePoint. Workflows within SharePoint generate tasks. Now tasks, we've worked with task lists before in SharePoint, but what's unique with workflows is that a workflow will automatically generate tasks and assign them to the appropriate person based on where an item is at within a workflow. So let's get started. Alright, I'm currently within a brand new team site that I've created in SharePoint. You can see it's within my Raymond Gritzmacher site, and I've just called the site Workflow Example. That's not really too terribly relevant, but I just wanted to point out that we're starting with a clean and new site. So let's take a look at what's all in this site. So if I go under Site Contents, we can see here that there is nothing within this site that isn't created along with a new team site. So we just have our document library, microfeed, site assets, and site pages. Alright, so I'm going to create a workflow for a new app that I'm going to add here. So I'm going to add an announcements app. So let's find that. So we're going to go ahead and select that. And I'm going to call this Holiday Announcements. We'll get rid of that space. We're going to be adding a workflow to this new app that I just created, the Holiday Announcement app. So let's go ahead and open that up. Now what we're going to want to do before we add a workflow to any app, in this case an announcements app, is we're going to want to do a little bit of setup work ahead of time. And it's really simple. Really all that we have to do is create a column that can hold the workflow status. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. So I've selected my list here. I'm going to select the ribbon. And what I'm going to do is create a new column. So of course we could do that a couple different ways. I'm just going to select the quick create column here. And I'm just going to create a column named workflow status. This is going to be a choice column because there are going to be a couple different options that we're going to specify. And down here where we can specify our choices, I'm going to clear all of these out. Alright, for these three I'm going to specify requested, approved, and finalized. So those will be the three stages that this workflow will be able to be in. We'll just leave the default choice as requested and say OK. And now we should see this additional column show up within our app. In this case, my announcement app. Let's go to the ribbon up there. Alright, so we now have our column. So now we'll add our workflow. And within our workflow settings for this list, I'm going to go ahead and select Add a Workflow. Alright, and for this example we'll be using the 3-state workflow. And then we want to enter a unique name. So I'm going to call this Holiday Workflow. And now this next one is really important. I had mentioned earlier that workflows will generate tasks. So this option right here for a task list, this wants us to specify the task list where new tasks will be created from this workflow. So in this scenario, it's a new site. I don't have any task lists. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that default tasks new. And if we look at the description, it tells us that a new task list will be created for this workflow. The next thing that I want to do for this example is to select the creating a new item will start this workflow. And then we'll select next. In this next screen, I'll be able to specify the workflow states. So as part of my setup before I added this workflow, I added a new choice field, a new column called workflow status. And that's what we see here. It wants us to select a choice field. And because that is the only choice field that's part of this announcements library, that's what shows up here. And then the three choices that I had added to that field were requested, approved, and finalized. And it added those, so the initial state of the workflow, middle state, and final state each have one of the choices associated with them. Now it automatically selected them in the order that they were specified, which is correct, but if I wanted to change the middle state to requested, for example, I could do that. If we read the details here, it talks a little bit more about the initial state is active, middle state resolved, final state is closed. Next, under tasks details, there's a lot that is shown here, but I don't want to get too distracted from just going through a simple example initially. One of the things that I do want to look at, though, is the task assigned to option. What this does is it determines who the task that's generated from the workflow will get assigned to. So if I have the default value of it created by, if I create the new announcement, this task will be created and assigned to me. But for a nice little example, I'm going to select custom and I'm going to use IT user 3. We'll validate one of our test users here. We'll make sure that that's valid, and it is. I'm going to scroll down then, specify what we want to happen when a workflow changes to its middle state. Again, same thing. We can specify who we want this task to be assigned to. So again, I'm going to select custom. This time I'll do IT user 4, and we'll validate that. And that is valid. And then we'll select OK down at the bottom. All right, and now our holiday announcements app doesn't look a lot different. We still just see title modified in workflow status, which is what we'd expect at this point. So let's go ahead and add a new announcement and see if our workflow picks up. So for the title, I'm going to specify 4th of July. For the body, I'm just going to say enjoy the long weekend. And for expires, we'll go out to July, and we'll do a week after the 4th of July. We also have workflow status here, which will default to the initial value, the first one in that choice list. So that's just fine. We want it to start with requested, and I'm going to select save. So I've just refreshed the page, and now you can see that there's a new column called Holiday Workflow, and it shows in progress. And if I select this in progress, that's a link, it takes us to this workflow status page. And it shows us just what's happening. So it shows that there is a task that's been created and assigned to IT user 3. The status is not started, the due date, etc. And then there's also, so it shows the associated tasks that have been generated for this workflow. And then it shows the history. So right now, it just contains a single entry that the workflow was initiated. So I've been talking now a lot about how a workflow will generate tasks. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to look at a task that's generated. So I'm going to go under Site Contents. Here's our new Tasks app that was created automatically when we created our workflow. It automatically added this new Tasks app for us. So I'm going to go ahead and select Tasks. And inside of this task list, if I hover over the I here, it tells us that this task list is for a workflow. You can see that there is a task, just like many tasks that we've created in the past, that is assigned to IT user 3, and the status is not started. It shows the related content, so this link will actually take me directly to that 4th of July announcement. So here's a task. So if I select 4th of July, it now takes us back to the workflow status, so for this 4th of July announcement. So I'm just going to go to my holiday announcements page and see now this is in progress. And this is going to remain in progress until we take some action on this workflow. So in this scenario, IT user 3 needs to take some action because this item is assigned to them. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into my Tasks app again. And I'm going to edit this task. So I'm going to say edit item. All right, so here it shows our task. It shows that it's assigned to IT user 3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to now play the role of IT user 3 for a moment. And I'm going to pretend that I did whatever needed to be done for this task. And I'm going to change the status to completed. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. And if I go back to my holiday announcements now, we can see that the workflow status has been changed to approved. Also, if I select in progress again, that link, we should have another entry in our history. So in our workflow history, you can see that there are now 2 items The first one at 10:54, the three-state workflow, was started. And then at 10:57, the three-state workflow state changed. So the task has been completed, it shows here. Also, what's really interesting is that IT user 4 now has a task assigned to them. Now keep in mind, when we were setting up the workflow, we had picked IT user 3 and then IT user 4. So that's why we're getting IT user 4 now, who has a task assigned to them. Before we look at this task, I'm going to go back to holiday announcements. And again, we just want to make note it shows that second state, which it was approved, and then it still shows in progress. So I'm going to go back to site contents. And within tasks, let's go ahead and find that task that's assigned to IT user 4. So you can see that one is not started yet. And in just a moment, we're going to close this task as well, so the workflow will progress, so we can exercise it from start to finish. But before we do that, I just want to call out that these users, IT user 3 and IT user 4, they're receiving emails as these tasks are created and assigned to them, so that they know that they have to do something. So if this assigned to were Gritzmacher Raymond, instead of IT user 3, in my inbox I would have an email saying, an issue has been created, a task has been created for you based on this workflow, you need to take action on it. So just in case if you're wondering how users are notified. So I'm going to go ahead and select this task now. And just like we had done with the previous task, I'm going to close this task as well. So I'm going to select Edit Item, Show More, and we're going to change the status to Completed. And we'll go ahead and save that. Now we'll go back to holiday announcements again. All right, and now we can see within our holiday announcements that the workflow status is finalized and that the workflow is completed. So what we've done is we've just created a holiday announcement app. We've added the workflow status column, which was a choice column with 3 options. Then we proceeded to add a workflow to this announcements app. And also by creating a workflow, it created the tasks app for us to hold all of the tasks that are generated by that workflow. If I select the link here, whether it's in progress or completed, I can see all of the tasks that were generated as part of that workflow, and I can see all of the history that took place around this workflow. Thanks for watching.